Hello and welcome to CGB Games, Cameron here, and today I'm happy to show you my second devlog for Escape from Violet Institute. First thing on the list today is to completely remodel the intro to the game. Now this is quite a big task, but I'm very excited to get it done. As it stands, the player clicks New Game and is transported to a 3D level where the intro plays on a screen in front of them. The room has nothing in it and the intro vid itself is outdated with horrible assets that I hate a lot. Both these things I hope to change right now. So firstly I deleted the room itself and got rid of everything there. All that was left was the player and the sound that plays when you enter. All I did was copy a room from level 30 and brought it into this one. This may look a little lazy, just copying and pasting a room that's already made, but there is a very real, strong narrative reason as to why I've done this, and I can't really get into that now because it would give a lot away, but there's a reason, trust me. Next I fiddled with the player character's blueprints to allow movement, looking around and interaction, and that's all the intro player needs. After the character blueprint and putting all the room together so it looks nice, I could work on the actual intro video itself. Initially I wanted to have the intro video move into the first level seamlessly, so you click New Game, the main menu will scrunch up, the intro video will play, it will scroll upwards and it will show your character getting ready to play the first level. I thought it would be quite a nice slow introduction to the game. But in the previous attempt I couldn't quite get it right, so this time I have a different plan. Step 1 is to go to the first level and build the intro video scene below the level. Step 2, place the player character in bed along with his friends. Step 3, show the scene in full screen mode and cinematic lit view. Step 4, scroll upwards slowly whilst recording. This bit was quite tricky as I couldn't use the front-facing camera angle that Unreal Engine has, so I had to basically do it in perspective mode but be very careful about it, which was quite challenging. An easy way to do this in hindsight would be set up a camera rig and do it that way, but setting up a camera rig with controls without having two screens, which I didn't have when I was doing this part, is very difficult to do, so I had to go this way. Step 5, get the updated menu and replace the old crumpled paper effect. So the old menu, back in time, ages ago, crumpled up into paper, and that still happened, but obviously I have to replace the asset with a new menu. Step 6, get all the video files together, edit it nicely, and export it with the same name so it can just replace the old one in-game. And after all that, I finally managed to finish, and I can say I am much happier with how the intro looks now. There are still a few small issues that I need to address with it, but I'm still happy with where it is. Next, on the intro level front, there is a second room that needs to be built where the player can get into. And they can only get into this area after doing a specific thing in the actual game, so it's going to have a lock and key mechanic. After some perseverance, the player can now open the door if the specific thing is done in-game, and opening this door will stop level 1 from auto-playing, so it will cancel the intro entirely and you'll be stuck in that level if you open this door, which is intended, so you can't do it by accident. The next step after the door is opened still needs to be created, but I'm happy with the progress thus far and I want to move on to the next task. One thing I've always taken issue with, for me, in the game thus far, is the red gross matter that can be seen all around the 2D and 3D portions of the game. I always wanted the player to feel like this is suffocating them and putting them on edge, but I found difficulty in achieving this. So my plan now is to make a web of veins that can be placed on flat surfaces in 2D and 3D. I hope this will give the desired outcome, and it will essentially make the red tissue look like it's spreading throughout the levels and give that sense of impending doom. Obviously with my game, if I make something for one dimension, I have to make it for both, so it doubles the workload. So this time I started with the 2D portion of the game, opening Photoshop and beginning to create the web of veins. Using a basic brush, I quickly mapped out the web itself, using one of the background sprites as a guide for the scale of it. Then I added a few overlay textures and different effects that would help it look 3D and impactful in-game. Once I was happy with the creation, it was time for the longest part of the job, implementation. I always find that creating the assets at this stage of game design, it doesn't take as long as actually implementing it, because once I implement it once, I have to do it for, I think, 16 levels in 2D and then another 16 levels in first person, which takes a long time. Finally, after a few hours, it was in all 2D levels and I was very happy with it, which means I can start work on the 3D version of it. Unlike the 2D iteration, this part will take a little longer as there are a few more elements to keep in mind when creating a 3D asset. I started with modelling it in Blender. I simply made rectangles and extruded it out in different directions to make the basic shape of the web. I then added a few more edge loops and smoothed the vertices until I got the desired shape. I next made a quick unwrap of the mesh and then duplicated it to make the high poly. Now this process was fairly rushed and I would usually spend more time working on it, but time is what I don't have right now, so it's going to have to make do. All that was left was to export both high poly, low poly, and then it's over to Substance Painter. Here I made a quick gory material and exported the texture twice, one being a lot lower for the LOD for use in game. I always try to make LODs with every asset I can, so I don't run into performance issues if some would arise. Finally, it was time to place the asset, which didn't take too long as I anticipated, because I made the origin point in such a way that I could just drag it onto screen and drop it wherever, which was nice. So I'm very happy with how the web looks in both 2D and 3D. I feel like it makes the tissue feel like it's spreading and does give the design effect I want for the player. Final task for this DevBlog is to implement the flare instance into the first person portion of the game. I'll quickly give an explanation of what I'm trying to achieve before I show you. Essentially, the player can throw flares to light up the area they are in. Previously, if the player left the game, all flares would be removed from the level once they rejoined. This next task would be saving the flares thrown and the location of each individual flare. This is a little difficult as the player can move flares by running into them once they are thrown, so the location of each flare needs to be updated in real time and then saved. Step 1 takes us to the player character, where we set up the function to see which flare is being thrown at any given time, so the level can keep track of every individual flare. Then we move to the level blueprint, where on event begin play, the game will check which flares have been thrown and where to spawn them. Then we had to create the flares themselves, which all had their own individual location instances, so that they would not interfere with each other's placement. After this, I could set up the long process of saving and loading for each individual flare, which took a long time. Essentially, the player can only throw 40 flares on a level before the game stops recording the location of each one. I don't think this will be an issue, however, as it's nearly impossible to mount 40 flares at any given time, and the flare instance gets reset on each level. I'm sure that when the game is released, however, people will place 41 flares and wonder why the last flare they placed hasn't been saved when they reload the game. Well, after completing those 3 large tasks, I am happy with the progress of this devlog, and I think I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe so you can keep yourself updated on the game's progress. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Then we have to create the flares themselves, which all have their individual location instances saved, so it means I have to create quite a few. Then we have to create them flares themselves. Fuck me. Then we have to create them flares. Jesus Christ, just speak, man. Then we had to create the flares themselves, which all have their own location instance, so that they will not interfere with each other's. Why is this sentence so weird? Oh. I'm done. I'm actually done. I can't speak.